Good morning, everyone. I'm Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning. I am joined this morning by my colleague, Councilmember Bob Blumenfield, my colleague, Councilmember Hugo Soto-Martínez, and really the heroes of this moment that we're celebrating, the service providers that have all joined us here from a variety of service areas. And we're here today to talk about the official start and commencement of unarmed model of crisis response in the city of Los Angeles. This has been several years in the making. Multiple motions have been introduced by several colleagues over the course of the last several years because we recognize the need for the city of Los Angeles to provide a response in moments of crisis for people in the city of Los Angeles that don't often require those armed with a gun. We recognize that we have a number of individuals that suffer from mental health crisis in the city of Los Angeles. If we can get a moment. Thank you. As I indicated, there are several individuals that struggle with mental health crisis in the city of Los Angeles. And as a result, we need to ensure that we have a comprehensive approach to how we respond to those individuals in moments of crisis. It's why we have been working very diligently to help convene a response that doesn't require LAPD response. We know that oftentimes, and the LAPD has been in lieu of, as a result of some of the call loads that they get, they have historically deployed the mental evaluation unit that has accompanied them in many of these types of calls. Unfortunately, we know that that system is far oversubscribed and is unable to respond in a comprehensive manner that requires the level of support and sustained contact and outreach that many of these calls require. And now in the city of Los Angeles, we want to just provide some insight. We know that the city of Los Angeles does not have mental health services as part of its wheelhouse. These are services that are required to be provided by the County of Los Angeles. And while the city of Los Angeles represents 40% of the 10 million in the County of Los Angeles, in the 10 million residents in the County of Los Angeles, we have still yet to receive the level of service and attention from the county to provide these services here in the city of Los Angeles. And while it would be great for the county to step up and provide these roles and services in a comprehensive manner, we can no longer wait for those services to be fully realized here for our constituents. And it's for that reason that we have been working so diligently on providing this unarmed model of crisis response, because we can no longer wait for Angelenos to be served to have their needs met in the moments that they need them. And so it's for that reason that we have been working collaboratively here with my colleagues, again, through a number of motions that have been historically introduced and over the last couple of years. But I want to take a moment to thank some of those individuals that have been instrumental to get us to this moment today. Again, this has been a huge collaboration, not just introducing the motions, but getting the resources dedicated to the budget, which Mr. Blumenfield and I were advocating for through the budget process last year. In the 23-24 fiscal year budget, we have allocated $9 million to launching this pilot. But it was with the diligent work of members of the City Administrative Office. And I want to thank all the members that are here. I know Andre, Malika, everybody that is here from the CAO's office, including, of course, Matt Zabo, our CAO. They have all been very instrumental in helping us get to this moment today. It has been a process of getting the right metrics, the right evaluative tools, but also the right nonprofit partners that can be deployed and are prepared to provide these response in these moments of crisis to Angelenos when they make that call. It's also been a part of making sure that the dispatch of the call loads that are received from the 911 system are appropriately dispatched to the individuals that you see behind me. And so it's for that we are here today to celebrate this incredible milestone. I want to also recognize that just in the first 3 weeks, this pilot launched on March 12th. So it's just been in effect for the last few weeks. And in those 3 weeks, we have dispatched and responded to over 300 calls. In fact, 318 calls in 3 weeks that have been redistributed from what would historically go to LAPD to this new model of unarmed response. And that is a reflection of the demand that has historically been burdened to police officers to respond to, but are now being appropriately redirected to have the needs met of these Angelenos that are suffering through these crisis moments with appropriate service providers. And those service providers that are behind me, I want to recognize them. We've got Penny Lane, we've got Exodus Recovery, and Alcott Center that are among the service providers that are responding in those moments of crisis. And so again, this program and this effort is a launch to help have a comprehensive response that doesn't always require law enforcement to be present, but helps get to the service needs of what people are experiencing out in the city of Los Angeles. And for that, I'm really grateful for their support and participation and their cooperation and their patience. This has not been, this didn't happen, as I said, it didn't happen overnight. It took a great deal of effort and time, allocating the right resources. But we wanted to make sure that we launched this pilot in a manner that was succinct across each of the service providers. They didn't get layered on over time. They were all launched at an immediate moment so that we could measure the effectiveness of the work that they were doing. And it's for that reason that I'm very excited to say that we have successfully deployed over to 318 calls, removing that from the demand of LAPD. And I think based on that initial call load, we're looking at potentially very successful program that is relieving LAPD of these calls. And so with that, I'd like to take a moment to introduce my colleague who has been a co-conspirator in this effort. Again, we've had many collaborators in this effort in the city, a number of my colleagues, but aligning the resources to make this all possible has, particularly when we're looking at difficult fiscal budgets, I am very happy to have with me my colleague, the chair of our Budget and Finance Committee, Mr. Bob Blumenfield.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rodriguez, both for that introduction, but more importantly, for leaning in on this. As Councilwoman Rodriguez mentioned, this, it's great. This has been in the works for years. I mean, I was part of the very first motion we did on this 4 years ago, and I brought the Cahoots folks from Eugene, Oregon, to come here. But it doesn't end with a motion. It really takes a lot of behind-the-scenes work, leaning in. Part of the job as a council member is not just to introduce things, but to then go back and do the hard work, especially something like this, which is bringing a whole new department and a whole new way of thinking to life. And you've really leaned in, and I'm very grateful to that. And Mr. Soto-Martínez being here, he's going to be the beneficiary of having one of the areas in his district, and has also really been super supportive of this idea, which is to think differently, to realize that public safety is more than just about having a badge and a gun. Public safety is about having multiple ways to keep people safe, different kinds of response. So I'm really proud to stand with all of the members to launch this unarmed model of crisis response. And the last couple of years, we've been working to build this program, allocating over $15 million just this year for the Office of Unarmed Response, and finding space and the people to enable us to take this collective vision that we can all have for this city, to deploy the right teams equipped with the right tools to respond to Angelenos in crisis, to expand services for community. It's about, when you call 911, you want to have the right person get to you at the right time. And for many years, we've always, we have all of these different issues. We always ask our police to do everything. Well, we realize our police are incredibly important, but they can't do everything. There are other things, particularly when it comes to some of the mental health and issues, that we need to have folks who are really trained in that. We've seen this model successfully happen in other places, and we are already, as LA, we are taking it on in a bigger way than all of those other places. So today's launch, we're creating a stronger network of service providers, licensed clinicians, behavioral health workers to increase the number of calls diverted and accelerate the creation of a holistic crisis continuum of care in our region. And we encourage folks to join in this space, help grow and strengthen this network of crisis responders. We welcome service providers to engage with the city and partner with us in this work. And this partnership is possible due to the efforts of our CAO's office. We mentioned Matt and the whole team that's here. Our Office of Unarmed Response, the 911 Dispatch, Exodus Recovery, Alcott Center, Penny Lane Center, they're all leading in this work, filling a critical need here in Los Angeles. So today is a banner day. Today we are turning that page. We are leading. The county is doing part of this, but we're bringing them along, and we're showing how it's done here. And the ultimate goal is to expand this and to just make it an integrated part of this city. So thank you, Ms. Rodriguez, for doing this. This is an exciting day, and congratulations to all the folks who are here. Thank you, guys. These are the folks who are going to be out there in the field making a difference each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blumenfield. And again, and thank you for recognizing, again, that this is a collaborative effort, that this is not just the City of Los Angeles working on its own. We can't do this without the service providers, the clinicians, those with the expertise that can actually respond to meet the needs of the individuals that are in crisis. And we couldn't have launched this program. Again, it's being offered, 24-hour response. When these calls are received, these are the folks that are out in the field responding to those calls. The 318 calls that they've received, they have already helped to serve and meet the needs of individuals without having to utilize LAPD services, and that is a win both for the police officers that have not been appropriately trained to actually respond in those circumstances, but more importantly, to get the actual needs met of the individuals that are facing these crises. And so these are really the heroes behind us that have been in the field doing this work, and we're really grateful for their collaboration and partnership. And at this time, I'd like to invite Naomi Novak, who's with Penny Lane Center, to talk about their deployment and efforts at Penny Lane.
Thank you so much. I love this work. And as Deputy Director of Intensive Mental Health Services at Penny Lane Centers, my job usually requires me to be in the office doing administrative work that keeps our clients served, safe, and secure. But there's something about being in the field, something about seeing the people you're impacting face to face, something about putting your skills to work for a community that you're a part of. And after 30 years in community-based mental health, the unarmed model of crisis response has brought that opportunity back into my life. I made it a point to roll up my sleeves and be among the responders who are answering these initial calls. And 3 weeks in, I have to say that I can't ever remember going home, especially after a 12-hour day, feeling as excited, energized, and proud of the impact that we're making and what I've seen in this program. And it's the people that I've met and been able to help who I take home with me that I can't get out of my mind still. They're very impactful because we're truly on a mission to embrace, empower, and protect those that are most vulnerable in our community and the most in need. We have been able to create safe spaces for people who don't often feel secure, see people who too often feel invisible, to de-escalate situations that might otherwise spin out of control, and to provide sparks of hope. And we do it knowing that this work can have a lasting effect on their mental health and physical well-being of so many. I'm grateful to the city's elected leadership and our partners at the CAO's office who put in a few 12-hour days themselves, and everyone who has stepped up to make this resource available to these communities. And I know I speak on behalf of all the providers when I say that I'm looking forward to seeing the program flourish now and in the future. And I want to thank you all for having the courage, the commitment, and the foresight to show up at a moment when our community needs you most. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. And now I'd like to invite Ebony Morgan with Exodus Recovery.
UMCR may have officially launched just a couple of weeks ago, but my first day on this job was actually 1 year ago today. I was so honored to be involved, and I believe so strongly in this model, in this movement, that I moved to Los Angeles early to prepare. I was a leader in the Cahoots program in Eugene, Oregon, and from experience and data, we know that the need for unarmed crisis response is significant. Even in that town of less than 200,000, and LA has a population 20 times that. This is profoundly motivating because in that fact, there's so much potential for UMCR to have a positive impact on the entire community. I emphasize community whenever I talk about crisis response, and I think the collaborative spirit surrounding this pilot is a perfect example of why it matters so much. Because look, I know that I am a good de-escalator, and I can run a crisis response program that is effective and reliable and dedicated, but I wasn't raised in LA. I've learned a lot, but I'll be first to admit that 1 year is not enough time to understand the complexities of any city, especially one this large. That said, one of the most important parts of this process is that I'm surrounded by people who did grow up here, who do know the nuances, and who exist in the communities within the community. Meaning, behind the scenes of the UMCR pilot is a merging of people experienced with the work and people who exist and have experience tailored to LA. I'm talking about people with a long track record in city government who understand what residents have asked for in a new vision for public safety. Organizations that for years have been dedicated to providing mental health services to the community. And most importantly, our responders who raised their hands to do this, to provide compassionate care to their neighbors. And we can't forget that community members speaking up is what kickstarted this reality. At its heart, UMCR is community. It's people helping people, regardless of circumstance, housing or economic status, or background. And that, my friends, is some of what makes doing this work such a privilege. Sincerely, thank you.
Thank you, Ebony. And now I'd like to invite Chris Marshall from Alcott Center.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this special day. My name is Christiana Marshall, UMCR Program Manager for the Alcott Center for Mental Health Services. Unarmed crisis response is more than a job, although it's how we make a living. It's more than a profession, even though we're very well trained. Crisis response is a calling. It's not just how we earn a paycheck or what we've studied in school. It's how we walk in the world. And nothing has made that truth more clear than the first few weeks of this program. It's been humbling and energizing to see the difference we're making by answering these calls in the Wilshire Division. The impact that we can have through partnerships and collaborations that keep our minds on the mission. But most of all, it's the people and the experiences that will forever live in my heart and mind. The warm handoff from the LAPD officers who turned to us to help a young man in a mental health crisis get connected to the resources needed to stabilize in his own community. The elderly man who eventually accepted transport to a local hospital so he could be treated for the underlying medical condition driving his crisis. There have already been more people helped with more stories that would fascinate you than I have time to talk about. And that's what we call a good problem. because empowering people to care for themselves when they can and accept care when they need it, helping our neighbors navigate crisis situations and get on the path of recovery and reconciliation, meeting them where they are and helping them overcome whatever negative circumstances they may find themselves in. That work should never end. And now, with UMCR, we are doing our part to make sure that it doesn't have to. Thank you.
Thank you, Christiana. And again, as Chair of Public Safety for the Los Angeles City Council, I will say that so often, I think historically, when you consider the city's, what the city considers public safety response has historically meant dedicating resources to the Los Angeles Police Department or the LA City Fire Department. We are expanding what that response looks like here today. We are shifting in a mode of making sure that we are providing comprehensive response to meet the needs, the diverse needs of Angelenos in those moments of crisis. The individuals that are behind me are an example of what this pilot looks like, the comprehensive response and services that they're providing to people in need. But more importantly, it marks a shift in how we're expanding what public safety looks like in that response here in the city of Los Angeles. And I'm really proud of that. I want to thank my staff for doing an incredible job for helping. Again, we took 25 motions and distilled it, all of the momentum that this council wanted to see in evolving what our response looks like as a city. We took all of those interests of all of those different colleagues, working with the CAO's office to distill this in a manner that was actually able to be deployed. And so this took a lot of time. I want to thank our dispatchers at communications. They've had to also learn how to adapt and shift to appropriately send out those calls correctly and make a marked shift in how we do this work. And as a result, again, offloading just in 3 weeks, over 300 calls that would otherwise historically go to the Los Angeles Police Department. And I know that this is services that is going to be a welcomed relief and accelerate the response for many business owners, for many residents that so often call because of what they see on the streets of Los Angeles. We now have an extra arm in providing resources to these communities in a much more rapid and thoughtful approach with this unarmed crisis response model. And so I'm really thankful for all of the collaborators that have been part of this to get us to this moment. Again, our CAO's office especially, and of course, we couldn't do this without both the resources and the collective vision and effort, collaborating with all of our dispatchers and LAPD to make sure, and fire, to make sure that we are actually getting the appropriate resources to these individuals in the moments that they need it. And so with that, I'm actually going to take a moment to give some remarks in Spanish, and then we will open it up for questions. Muy buenos días. Como presidente del Comité de Seguridad Pública en el Consejo de la Ciudad de Los Ángeles, quiero compartir la creación de Unarmed Model of Crisis Response, UMCR, el modelo de respuesta sin armamento en situaciones de crisis, especialmente crisis mentales. Esto es algo en lo que comenzamos hace más de 2 años, observando programas similares en otras ciudades en los Estados Unidos. Este programa es lo más grande de los Estados Unidos. Nuestros residentes son 40% de la población del condado. Ellos merecen un programa que vigila las llamadas que llegan al 911, pero que no representan un riesgo que necesita la policía. Este programa será implementado inicialmente en 3 áreas de influencia de LAPD: Southeast, Devonshire y Wilshire, con planes de expansión. El UMCR piloto llena un vacío actual en los muchos programas piloto que opera la ciudad. El más similar es el programa Circle, que está diseñado para ayudar a personas sin hogar que experimentan crisis de salud mental, pero no atiende al resto de la comunidad. Al medio que UMCR piloto avance, nosotros en el Comité de Seguridad Pública, en el Consejo, vamos a ver cómo estos programas trabajan bien y dónde podemos duplicar. Desde comenzó el 12 de marzo, el UMCR piloto ha redireccionado ya 318 casos con atención satisfactoria. And so, again, really proud of the initial success of this launch of this pilot. We are continuing to measure the results and the effectiveness of this work with the hopes of being able to expand this effort to a broader reach in the city. And so with this initial pilot, we are seeing marked success. And again, my thanks to all of the individuals that have been involved to get us to this moment. It's an incredible milestone and an incredible shift, a comprehensive shift in how we respond to individuals facing mental health crisis and getting the response to Angelenos in need. Thank you so much.